Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live Q&A with our lovely egg donor. My name is Joy Rejholec, and I'm going to be the host for this Q&A. Today, we are going over egg donation and life after donation. So I have with me today our FSC donor, Devin. Devin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. I love doing this.
Awesome. Well, really, we're kind of trying to delve into one of the biggest questions and concerns we have for women who want to donate their eggs is that, what's the long-term effect? Like what am I really getting myself into here? Because the process itself is kind of intense and it's lengthy, but we're thinking down the road, for the next decade, what does this look like for me? So we're going to go over a little bit of those and we'll get to some big questions. If you are joining us on any of our social platforms and you have questions for either myself or Devin, please add those into the chat and I'll be happy to jump in and answer those live for you. But Devin, first and foremost, we need to know about you. So would you mind giving us a little bit of background?
Sure. I started my donation process in my early 30s. I've completed 6 donations, and there are 5 children that I know about from those donations. By day, I'm an elementary school visual art teacher, and by night, a power lifter. So
that's a very wide range of things that you do.
I'm a teacher, so I gotta take out rage somewhere.
Exactly. We'll say build up that strength, right? Yes. Build up the mental and physical strength. So you said you did 6 donations, which is absolutely wonderful. And you know of 5 children. So thank you so much. I know that you probably impacted those families more than you could ever possibly comprehend. But do you remember anything specific about any of the journeys? Anything that kind of like sticks with you about being maybe your favorite? And then, if we really want to, we could inversely say maybe something that was like the worst hiccup or the worst challenge you had to overcome.
A couple things I remember. There was one donation where it was just a single woman, unmarried, wanting a child. And I really felt a connection to that person, even though I didn't know her name. I didn't know anything about her, but just knowing she was thinking about her life. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to do for me and my growing family. So that really, I thought that was a really powerful thing to be a part of. And there's also one donation where I met the couple from overseas, and because I had all my donations closed, and this one was open, and it was a wonderful experience meeting them. I was very nervous at first, kind of like afraid to put faces to names and have it be real, but it just made it a better experience.
Yeah. And so I want to elaborate on that a little bit more, because I know that some viewers might not understand what we're saying when we say closed or open. Mm-hmm. So when you enter into an egg donation journey, you have the option, right? You get to choose what type of donation you are hoping for. And so a closed donation is as close to as anonymous as we can get in the medical field, in the legal world, right? You did not share information. You did not know more about each other except from a basic profile, maybe location. And like you said, like you knew that it was a single woman. So basic details, but they're not going to know your name. They're not going to know your personal information, and you're typically not going to connect.
Yes.
Now, we do have semi-open donations as well at Family Source, where you will share a little bit more information. Maybe it would just be a name. Perhaps you would meet over Zoom once just to kind of get a connection, but then that would really be it. Yes. And then the third is the open, like you discussed, and that is as open as both parties want to take it. Typically, that's kind of discussed before the journey or kind of written out in the legal contract, just so the expectations are
that's exactly right. You always meet with a legal team before you start any donation, and that's where you're able to say, I want to be completely closed and anonymous, or I am open to any sort of communication or any information sharing. I've had some donations where the couple wanted to know how I was doing, so I would communicate to FSC, and FSC would tell them what was going on in my process. So there was never a direct communication. And when in the legal process, you're also asked if you'd be willing to give an anonymous email address, meaning doesn't have your first name, doesn't have your last name, email address for the family and for the child for when they are 18 years old, if they want to reach out to you.
Okay.
So, and you can choose to have that, or you can choose to not have that. And I always provided um, an anonymous email address, um, because if the child is interested in knowing more, when they grow up, I will be very happy to communicate with them. And if they don't, that's totally fine too.
Well, and that's really wonderful to go into the donation really having kind of that open mind, because you had just kind of told me that one of your journeys you had went in closed, but then it kind of transformed into an open. So can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit more about that?
So this couple was from overseas, and it was the same sex couple from overseas. So they had a donor and they had a surrogate. And at one point during the process, it was, I think, in the middle of my IVF, they came out to Chicago, where I'm located, to meet FSC there, and then they were going to be traveling to Ohio to meet their surrogate. And I was invited to come to FSC. Would you like to meet them? I went really back and forth. I was talking to my husband about it. Should I go? Do I put a face to these names? Do I make it like real?
Mhm.
Knowing, seeing the people. And it was a really scary decision, but I was told, come to the office. And if you decide I don't want to meet these people, that's fine too. So I said, okay, I can go. I can make my decision right there. And the minute I saw them walk in the door, we just ran to each other and hugged. And
Aw.
we took pictures together, and they brought me a little gift. And it was just a really, really nice experience meeting these two men. And yeah, just being able to talk with them and have some good conversations about their dreams and their hopes. So that was
That's
that was nice.
that's wonderful. I'm going to cry a little bit. That's such a heartwarming story, because I love that you went in with such an open mind, that you were open to that, and it actually
Mhm,
kind of enriched the process for you,
mhm.
and I know for them, I'm sure. All right, so you've already touched on it, and you're going to help me segue very nicely, so I appreciate that. Let's talk about how you kind of felt after your first donation. Do you remember, or we don't have to talk about the first one? How did you
The,
feel
so
immediately after?
okay, so the first donation was absolutely terrifying
Mhm.
because I didn't know what to expect. Um, I wasn't familiar with the medications. I was told exactly how much to do. My husband was the one who gave me all of my injections. I didn't do them myself, so he was just by my side the whole time. And every day it was, "Are things okay? Are things okay? I don't know." Going to the doctor every other day to be checked out and being told, "Hey, things are fine." Um, it was just really nerve wracking, just because I wasn't familiar. But then immediately after, your body has to regulate itself again for a couple weeks afterwards, and then it's just kind of business as usual. Once your body has like the hormones have calmed down and your ovaries shrink back to their normal size, it was kind of a, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't want to make it seem like it's not a big deal, but it really was just kind of back to life.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole process or the whole concept behind egg donation is just enhancing what your body already is supposed
Mhm,
to do, right? Like we're just nudging it along to kind of perform at a higher standard than it's used to
mhm.
every month. So once we take that nudge away, which we take that medication away and your retrieval's over, you
Yep.
just start to regulate right back.
Yes.
Um, and that's wonderful. But like, do you think that kind of that relief afterwards had any impact on you choosing to do more journeys?
Oh, then right when I was finished, and this number sticking out to me. I think they retrieved 42 eggs
Oh,
from,
wow.
yeah, the first time, 42. Um, all of my donations had over 30. I think that one was a 42. And they said it was amazing. They were the great size. We got so many from you.
Mhm.
And that I was like, okay, I can do this. And I immediately, I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Those are great
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
So
Because
I'm really glad that you went on to do more, because I can't even imagine
and the
how many
more eggs
parents
they
are.
get, the more chances they have.
Yeah.
I think each family can choose the number of embryos that they want created from the eggs, or there's something with numbers of that way, but the more that they have to test, then the better off those families
Yeah.
are going to be.
Of course, the parents will have a say with their fertility clinic on how many embryos they want to
Mhm.
attempt to
Mhm.
fertilize. I know that more often than not, parents will fertilize all of them.
Yes.
hoping for it, because just because you got 42 eggs does not mean, for those of us watching that aren't familiar with egg donation, does not mean they got 42 embryos.
No, 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 no. But
Still a lot of variables that go into the process.
yes.
And we see a lot of diminishment, but 42 is a great number of eggs to start with. I'm sure that everybody that was matched with you is over the moon with those numbers. So how did your life change after your donations? That's kind of what we're here to talk about. Like, I know you said that you gave your anonymous email, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but immediately after the donations, you kind of said you just went on with your life. Did you notice any other like impact from these donations, or is it just kind of business as usual?
So at the time of my donations, all of my friends were trying to get pregnant or pregnant and having their children. So it was almost like I was in that same process with them at the same time. And it really made me think about, some of my friends had it really easy. They would just get pregnant and, didn't need anything to help them along. And other friends had multiple miscarriages and tried IVI many times or IVF many times. And it really enhanced my sense of how difficult it can be for some people. And really how, as a donor, in situations where the female can't produce her own eggs, you're the end of the line. You are their very last hope. They have tried everything before they got to picking a donor. They've tried everything medically that they can. They have had every test done that they can, and this is their last hope. And it's a really humbling feeling knowing they chose you to be a part of their family. Like, they chose you. And that impacted me the most, is having that knowledge of, I'm going to cry, of just knowing that, seeing your face and reading your bio, out of everyone they could have picked, it was you. And that's a really, I think about that a lot, actually. It's, yeah, I don't want to cry. I'm not wearing waterproof. I'm not wearing waterproof today.
Maybe we were not the best two people to put on this Q&A, because we are both gonna cry on this.
Yeah,
but no, it's always an honor, and I know a lot of our egg donors say that it's an honor to be chosen, and it makes them just feel so fulfilled. I've never been an egg donor, but I have been a surrogate, and I kind of have that same feeling, like someone trusted me enough to go through this process with me, and now I'm a part of them forever.
Yes.
Like, we will have this connection, whether we act upon it or not. We will have this connection from now until forever.
Yeah.
And I just love how passionate you are still about it, because it really speaks to kind of the type of people or the type of women who want to do this, who want to give to another family. So thank you. And thank you to any other egg donor who is listening to this Q&A right now, because we cannot do this without you. All right, I got sidetracked, but now we have to get back on our questions. You had mentioned this anonymous email, and I love that. So that kind of brings us to the long-term effect of egg donation. What do you foresee may happen when some of these children reach 18? Do you think, or are you expecting them to reach out to you?
Part of me wants to say yes, because it's no longer a stigma to be part of a family that's not necessarily blood related, and wanting to know where you came from and your your genes and your past, and so I would be very open to it. If they had questions, I would love to tell them. I mean, that's going to be in another 12 years or so.
Yeah, still got some time.
Yeah, so I'm like, I have to keep my dog's email address to make sure.
Make sure you occasionally log in and keep that active, please.
Exactly. But yeah, I think just how with social media and everything's growing now, and the Ancestry, 23andMe, people want to know. They really want to know their history. So I kind of hope at least one of them does, so that I can share my story with them.
Now, will you be upset if they don't?
Not at all.
And
Not.
I think that's the most important thing I wanted to kind of share from this Q&A today is that we really have to go into it with an open mind. We can
Yes.
go in with as many expectations or hopes as we may want. And I'm saying we because it kind of translates over to surrogacy as well. You know, we can go in with these expectations to this journey that we're jumping into, but we have to be really open to kind of let it happen fluidly.
And some
Right?
of the questions I got from my friends, and you can probably relate to this as a surrogate, was, but don't you feel any connection? Don't you feel like it's you? And it's really not. You
No.
know, it must be much more difficult growing a baby for that long, you know, having a completely different feeling of that was a part of you. But in egg donation, there's no deep personal connection that you have to get over in the process. And it was really hard for some people to understand that no, once they take my eggs, that's the end of my story. That's the end of the line for me. And that's where their story begins.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me there was a very definitive line there.
I love that you said that because I've always thought the exact opposite as a surrogate. For me, it was I went into the process knowing this was not my child. You know, I'm
Mhm.
just holding on to it for a little while, and I will give it to you as soon as he or she is ready.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to have kind of that same mindset with two completely different types of family building grounds.
Yeah.
I love how it takes a certain mindset and a certain heart, I think, to be an egg donor. And it inversely takes the same kind of mindset to be a surrogate. So we all need these different types of women that make this possible. And
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
having that open mindset to kind of make this realization go on.
Mhm.
Um, what were you able to accomplish kind of after your journeys? I mean, there's no secret that compensation is an aspect of this. You know, was there anything big that you were able to accomplish because of egg donation?
Yeah. Um, we were able to make a down payment on our house, which
And
was
that's,
that was huge.
yeah.
And we were able to buy a second used car for it's just my husband and I. So that was also really big to have the ability to do those things we thought we never could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the compensation is kind of what is earned for the time and energy and
Mhm.
the momentous kind of
Yeah.
impact that you're going through, right? And that is a part of it. You know, that's kind of the trade-off. I'm going to be on with you on this journey, and I'm going to dedicate my time and energy and body. And the parents are dedicating their emotions and their finances and their
Yeah.
bodies sometimes. You know, there's a very big commitment back and forth.
Mhm.
And it's lovely that that part of egg donation kind of helped you further your life, you know,
Yeah.
and your route that you were going with your husband.
Yeah, it's not a cheap process for these families. You know, they have to save for a long time, you know, and they can only hope like that it works.
Yeah.
You know. So you want to make sure that you are doing everything to the book. You are taking your medications on the dot every single day at the exact same time and doing all of the things that you need to do to make it happen.
Yeah. And for any egg donors who are worried about that part, I know we've talked about medications twice now, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but it's always really important for me to note that
Mhm.
you have support. So you are going to have support from your
Oh,
agency.
yes.
You're going to have umpteen amounts of support from the clinic. I mean,
Mhm.
we are all in this together with the common goal. We want
Oh,
this to succeed.
yeah.
So,
My case manager, I could text her at any hour of any day, "Hey, I'm feeling this way. Is this normal?" And she would respond, "Yes, of course. That's exactly what's going to be happening." And any worry, any question I had, FSC was there, like answering everything, or if they didn't have an answer, finding out the answer for me. So yeah, you never feel alone. You're definitely like held in their hands the whole time.
yeah, this is a big process, like you said. So, there are a lot of people who are going to make sure that this is going to
Yeah.
succeed.
And then you're at the doctor like every other day,
Yep.
being tested and checked out to see how everything is progressing. So any of those questions you might have are immediately answered. Sometimes you go every day, just depending on how your body's reacting to the medication. So there's always people looking out for you.
Yeah. And when you're going to those appointments, like how much do you think that had an impact on your daily life?
Um, it does sometimes take away time from work. Um, a few of my donations were happening during the week, because I'm a teacher. I'm at school Monday through Friday, and I told my administration, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, and these are the times that I have to go to the doctor. And sometimes I find out the night before, so I'm going to make sure that I'm prepared, and I will let you know when I have to go in order to get a sub." And they were very supportive of it, very supportive. But I did miss some work. I did have to take some sick days. I did have to take some sick time. The whole process is about 2 weeks, and then about a 1 to 2 week recovery period. So pretty much a month is the whole cycle of time, and I believe you can only donate every 4 months.
Yep. Most clinics will want you to have a normal cycle for at least a couple months after you've donated, just to make sure that everything's back in regulation and we can make sure that your body's going to respond well to the medications.
Mhm.
Again, not having those in your system. So yeah. But did you have any other positive impacts on your life from these appointments? Did you get to do any fun travel? Did you get to visit any new locations?
No, all of mine were in Chicago. I was almost chosen to do one for Miami, and I was very excited. But that one unfortunately fell through. But for me, the traveling down to River North was quite easy, and you're compensated for your travel. Um, I was compensated for all my public transit. If you drive, you're compensated for your gas,
Yeah.
so or your miles. So that is taken care of as well, which is really nice to know. Sometimes you have to travel far, so your time is compensated there.
Yeah. And I think we always say at the agency, like any reasonable expense is going to be compensated, because while this will have some negative impacts, like you just said, you did have to take time off work. It
Mhm.
does disrupt your daily life a little bit.
Mhm.
We want to try to minimize that as much as possible.
Yes.
And that's kind of the intended, or the recipient parent's responsibility in that role, is to kind of make sure that you are able to go do this process as smoothly and easily as possible. We want to try to minimize the stress because you need to focus on the medical aspect of it.
Yes, yes. And sometimes the doctors that are chosen with the couples are in different places. So sometimes you're traveling a little bit farther than others. So I have had to rent a car in order to get to a doctor's office that was about 45 minutes away. But I've also taken a 10-minute train ride.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what what doctor the family has chosen.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you had to travel and had to
Mhm.
take flights, that's where the agency comes in. So we have case coordinators at FSC, and we book your travel. We walk you through it. We would take care of all of that arrangement, with the recipient parents' input, making sure everybody's on the same page for expenses and
Mhm.
times, and coordinating to make sure you arrive with plenty of time to relax before your appointment. We're not going to make you try to get on a red eye and then jump right to your retrieval, because that would be awful. We want you nice and rested and relaxed and stress free, so that you can go into the retrieval with as much calm as possible, because you
And
have a big role to play.
I believe if you travel, you are there for the length of the entire process,
Exactly.
from the beginning of the medications and every single doctor visit until the retrieval. So that could be about a 2 week, 10 days, a 2 week period of time.
Exactly. Every clinic's a little bit different. We try to delay the travel as much as possible, but you
Mhm.
are correct. Since in egg donation, the most important thing is that we have to watch for the medications to really get your body to the point
Yes.
we need you.
Yes.
And so those daily appointments are just watching and waiting for your body to hit that threshold. And
Or
as soon as
adjusting
you
the
do,
medication. Yeah. Yeah.
yep, as soon as you do, that's when the trigger shot happens, and
Mhm.
the retrieval is the next day to the next 48 hours typically. So you are correct. If you did have to travel out of state, we would typically facilitate travel that's about 7 to 10 days prior to the retrieval, the expected retrieval date.
Mhm.
Of course, with any local monitoring to kind of give us that niche of when we need to go, and
Mhm.
make sure that we're ready to get you on a flight and be closer to the clinic, because
Mhm.
then they will test you every single day. You'll
Yep.
be really close. You'll be able to jump in on whenever that appointment's
Mhm.
necessary. All right. Last question for you. And this is always kind of how I like to end everything, because we've gone over everything. And it sounds like you you really didn't have much of an impact for your life. Life after donation has been kind of normal, but you have the opportunity to kind of say what that means. And in your situation, I love the anonymous email. I love that you're open to a decade from now, we could redo this webinar and you'll have a completely different answer. Oh my goodness, my life has changed completely. I now know everybody and we're all connected. But really just having that open mind to, you can kind of cultivate whatever life after donation looks like. So thank you so much for doing that. And the last question is, what is your biggest piece of advice for egg donors?
You're going to be really scared going into it because it's an unknown, but you're taken care of. Trust the doctors, trust the nurses, trust FSC. Everyone knows exactly what they're doing. And any question you have, they will answer it for you. So just going in and just trusting the process, you'll be wonderful. I think the first one is the scariest, just because you don't know what to expect, but everything that you do is worth it. The long tests that you have to take, the paperwork you have to fill out, the waiting time, it's worth it. Everything is worth it.
Devin, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for everything you've shared with us today. We could talk forever. I'm sure I could nitpick each one of your journeys and learn more about you and what you've done. But basically, if anybody who is watching has more questions, please visit our website, www.familysourceconsultants.com. You can reach out to us. You can ask any questions. If you have questions specific to Devin, send them over to Family Source. We'll get them for you and we'll get those answered. But thank you again. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the good tears. I will take those any day. But we really appreciate your time and your energy.
Oh, thank you. No, this is wonderful. I love doing this with you guys.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, folks, for our next Q&A. And Devin, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.